Hey, I'm Lee Domingue, serial entrepreneur, pastor, husband, proud father of 5 amazing kids, and boss, as they call me, to my 8 grandchildren and counting. Welcome to the Kingdom Builders podcast. I meet with some incredible leaders, business people, and pastors to learn from their life lessons and wisdom as we seek to live a life of true fulfillment and eternal impact. So glad you're here. Well, I'm so excited about this episode on the Kingdom Builders podcast because if I could pick one person I would ever want to interview, the top of the list would be the person who's had the greatest single impact on my life outside of my relationship with Jesus would be my dad. And so I thought nothing better than to be able to come into his house and to be able to interview him and glean from the years of wisdom that he's not only imparted to me, but to other people. And so when I think of my dad, I think of somebody who has lived his life for other people. I think of somebody who's really taught me generosity because he modeled it. You know, I always say you can never create culture, you can only be it. And so all of us need a model to follow, and all of us need mentors in our life. And I think as my dad would be one of the greatest mentors and models for me. And so I attribute any successes I have because of his input into my life and his love, not only for me, but my family as well. And so I'm thrilled to be with you, Dad, and thrilled to be interviewing you. It's a different type of interview for me.
Yes, it is.
You know,
it's different for me also,
Yeah.
and I appreciate your comments.
Yeah.
And I'm not used to doing any of this stuff or bragging about anything or bragging about my life or anything.
Yeah.
And I'll do my best to tell you what my life was.
Well, as we have just some time, and we're going to take our time through this, and like we were talking earlier, it's just a conversation. But any time that I've had, or any time that I've seen that can be spent with you in an uninterrupted setting,
Okay.
there's a lot of wisdom that comes out of you.
Thank you. I
And,
appreciate it.
yeah.
I don't try to be the smartest person in the world or anything. I'm just me.
Yeah.
That's who I am.
Well, we're in Cajun country, Lafayette, Louisiana, the heart of Acadiana, and it's true Cajun country. I tell everybody, I said Baton Rouge isn't Cajun, New Orleans isn't Cajun, Lafayette is the heart of Cajun country.
Yes, it is. And my grandmother on the Domingue side taught me French, and I used the French when I worked.
Wow.
It was something that I did. I know we're going to start off with when I was a kid and what I did. And I lived at 310 South Sterling Street, and that was just a very simple life. It was unbelievable, you know, in what you think of today. We had a gravel road, and I played in the trees at the Saunier house, and I fell off the garage roof one day, but I never broke an arm. I always wanted to have a cast, but I never did break anything, so I never had a cast.
Oh, that's funny.
And but we had a very simple life back then. It was we kept the house unlocked. We kept my bicycle on the front porch. Nobody ever took it.
Yeah.
And it was all simple, and everybody just enjoyed life, and it was fun.
Yeah.
And that's what I remember from being a kid, is just...
So tell us a little bit about, you know, of course, my grandparents, which was Mion and Cora.
Oh, yeah.
And as you know, I called them, they were Mama and Papa to me. And matter of fact, my middle name, a lot of people don't know that it's, I have 2 middle names. It's Lee Edward, and that Edward comes from Papa's middle name
Right.
as Lazard.
Right.
Lazard Edward Domingue. But people called him Mion.
Yeah, we wouldn't name you Lazard, but the way that happened is we named you Lee Edward, and before we could get it on the certificate, Winston, who's your grandfather, wanted to know why we didn't use his name. So we added Winston Lee Edward Domingue, and Dr. Rothfuss said, "Tell me the story behind that. I have to know it. Why you gave him so many names?"
So Papa Stokes wanted his name on there.
Yeah, he wanted to be in the deal. He had to be recognized.
That's funny.
That was funny.
That's funny.
But that's how we named you.
So you were. So then you get out of high school, and then from high school you get into the oil industry, which Lafayette is very, very known for as being oil and gas.
I first started in the oil industry with your grandfather.
Okay, tell us about that.
And the reason why I went to work with him was that our first job after your mother and I married was with Dowell. And what I did is I drove an 18-wheeler and a tank truck, and I carried acid and different products that we would put in a well. And I drove the 18-wheeler until I came in one day after being on a job for like 2 days and no sleep. And I got back to the station, and it was very poorly lit, and the lighting wasn't that good. And I was on the top loading my truck to go out on another job, and I fell off the top of the truck onto the concrete, and I hit my head.
I never heard
They
this.
took me to Lourdes Hospital and x-rayed me twice, but I had no broken bones and my head was fine.
Wow.
But I had the worst headache, and your mother and I stayed at her father and mother's house, and I laid on the couch for 3 days with a horrible headache. And after that, he told me, he said, "Why don't you come and learn the oil business?"
Wow.
And so I chose that to do it.
How old were you then?
I was probably 21, 22.
Okay.
And I worked for him. He paid me $200 a month. My house payment was $125.
Wow.
Barely made it. I'd cash in Coke bottles at the grocery store to get by bread.
Wow. So in that business that you were in, so you would be what was called a landman or an independent oil lease broker.
Yeah.
Right. So tell me what that is.
Well, what an independent landman was a sophisticated talk about what we were. If they wanted to be kind of like a slang, you called us a broker, an oil lease broker.
Okay.
What a landman would do with regards to drilling a well, he may go talk to the landowner permission to put a road through his property to get to the location, to tell him about what they're doing, what they're going to be doing.
Yeah.
But he has not, an engineer is the one who drills the well.
Yeah. We're going to get that. I'm going to send that to Taylor Sheridan, the director. I'm going to send this clip so that he can stand corrected, because the Hollywood version of landman's not accurate of what a landman actually does. And I knew that.
Well, what a landman does is he works on the agreement, I'm trying to remember exactly the name of the agreement, but it's an agreement amongst the working interest partners as to who's responsible for what. Yeah. And he may work on that.
Yeah. And
that controls the ownership of the well.
Yeah. Yep.
But he may work on that, but a land person would do that. Basically, what he does is he clears the titles on the property for them to drill the well. He's involved with the leasing of the property, which begins. It all starts with a lease,
Yeah.
And but he never gets involved in the drilling of a
drilling.
well because an engineer is the one who drills the well.
What would you say, Dad? What would you say are one or two what you would call successes in your career? You said that was a success.
Yeah, I had a very successful situation to where we had a deal that I was involved in. I had a minor interest. That was with Whitson, who's the engineer, Jimmy Raymond, the geologist in New Orleans, and Bill Bullen. I owned an interest with them, a very small interest, in a field that we called Manila Village. And what we did there is we had to sell it. We had to kind of back up a little bit because we still had 50% to sell. And Primary Fuels offered to take it at 50%. They were going to take the 50%, but they were going to be the operators of the well. And we were always the operators on any deal we sold.
Yeah.
So we drilled it, and it was very productive. It was an oil play. We drilled 14 wells without drilling a dry hole. We were getting 3,200 barrels of oil a day. And at that time in October, oil was $40 a barrel. What we didn't pay attention to is Boone Pickens, who was a big-time oil man, sold his oil interest at $40. We didn't sell nothing. We had it by we had the world. It was so successful what we did. And so we never drilled a dry hole on the north and the south of the play. We were along a big fault. And so oil went, the next month it went to $20 a barrel. The next month it went to $10 a barrel. In comparison, the first check I got from October was $64,000 for my interest. The next check I got for November was $20,000. The next check I got for December was $10,000.
Wow.
And my cost for a working interest, you have to pay your monthly cost of the expenses. And that was $14,000 a month. And I only had $10,000 coming in. I owed $1 million at the bank that I had borrowed to do everything, to drill the wells and do all that stuff. Plus we had to spend $3 million building the platform to produce everything. So I had a $14,000 deal and I was only getting $10,000. I had to work with the bank, and the bank worked with me. That was the American Bank with Johnny Hutchison, and Robert Tujak was my loan officer. And he was very patient, and he worked with me, and we worked it out. I was told I should go to Opelousas and file a bankruptcy, and I said no. At the time I signed that loan, the intent was to pay it, and that's what I was going to do. I got it down to $500,000. And Bill Bullen helped me. He had a friend, Phillips, lived in San Antonio, but he was originally from the Pennsylvania oil people. And he was an oil man. And Hokey Phillips was his name. And he came into Lafayette, and Hokey was looking to buy some production. And Bill Bullen talked him heavy into buying me out. And so he bought me out for $500,000. I mean, for $500,000. I had to pay $125,000 in taxes, but I was free from the obligation that I had. And I got rid of that, and Verona gave me a momentum when I first found it, and that's two guys sitting on the bench. That's me and Bill Bullen, and it's Vanilla Village on the back of the bench.
Yeah, that's a great story. I remember when all that happened. That was the early 80s.
Yes.
It was the early 80s.
Yeah, and it went to nothing. It was horrible.
Wow.
And then in 1990, things were real slow. And Bill Bullen and I supported Kathy Ashworth as city parish president. And she didn't make it. And the runoff was between Kenny Bowen and Ron Gomez. Leon Monclaw wanted to go support Kenny Bowen, and Bill Bullen didn't care for Ron Gomez too much, so we went and we supported Kenny Bowen, along with my cousin Dale Dupuy, who was the big politician on the north side, and he supported Kenny. And we supported him, and when it came time for the election, Kenny Bowen won by 144 votes.
Wow.
Which turned out to be the fire station across from Bro's grocery store.
That turned the election.
On Moss. And Channel 10 announced that the last one was the fire station on Cali Saloon, which Ron Gomez figured he won. And then they corrected the mistake. And it was Kenny Bowen won.
Wow.
We supported Kenny, and I asked him for a position as one of the directors. And he gave me the position of Director of Administration, which meant I had all of the employees at City Hall under me. And this is what I did. I had to run government. And it was an amazing thing because it was something I wasn't familiar with at all, but I just took it upon myself to listen, learn, and trust my employees.
Wow.
And
wow.
So
you may not know this, but that this would have been October of 1997, starting a company called Dominion Motor Cars that later became App One.
Yes.
And I remember the first month, and I may have never told you this story, but it ties to what it's amazing how God doesn't waste anything, because he'll connect the dots. Your life in the oil business, your life in politics, or working for the parish government, all those different things, how he uses all of that. Let me tie a bow on this. So about a couple of weeks in business, I get a phone call, and it's a lady from the Louisiana Motor Vehicle Commission. And she's an investigator for the motor vehicle. She wants to know what I'm doing because she saw an ad that went in a newspaper about if you want to buy a car, get help with somebody, hire me to help you get a car. And she was quizzing me, and she was like being very abrupt and I'm like, oh man, this is not going to go well. I said, what I'm doing is not illegal. So what's the problem? And she starts talking to me. She's being pretty hard on me. And I'm in Baton Rouge at the time, in renting a house. And sure enough, she stops in her conversation. And she says, Domingue, where are you from? I said, I'm from Lafayette. She said, who's your daddy? Just like that. And I said, well, Floyd. She goes, Floyd Domingue's your father? I said, yes, ma'am. She says, oh my God. I worked for him. He helped me get a job at the city of Lafayette administration. Your dad has impeccable character. Your father has incredible integrity. He has a flawless reputation. Let me tell you what's really going on. There's a couple of car dealers that are scared to death of you, that you're operating in the way you're operating because it's going to hurt their business, and they're complaining to the Motor Vehicle Commission, and they're trying to figure out what you're doing. You don't worry about it. Here's my cell phone number. If you ever have any issues, you call me and you let me know.
Really?
That was a defining moment in my business. But because of your integrity, because of your character, because of your reputation, that enabled me to get a second start.
I'll be damned.
And it was because the favor. Now, they did try a couple of months later to try and pass a law that stopped me from doing what I was doing in Baton Rouge. But this time, unlike in Texas, this time I learned what lobbying meant. I learned what government relations was all about. I learned the politics. And what ended up happening is through people in politics in Louisiana, sitting senators, congressional guys, representatives, and also a great lobbyist, we had that bill that they were trying to get passed killed. And then all the power brokers in around the state that represented those wealthy car dealers came to me and said, "Hey, we want to meet with you. And what do you want?" That's what they said. "What do you want?" I was like, "I just want to be licensed and be left alone, and let me help people with my business." And that's how those steps were steps that they let me really author the bill. And then the bill got passed as licensing automobile brokers. And then as part of it, they offered to talk to the governor, who was Mike Foster at that time, the governor to appoint me as a commissioner on the Motor Vehicle Commission. And I served 4 years as a commissioner on that Motor Vehicle Commission, which regulated all the new car dealers, all the manufacturers, and so it was an amazing journey, but it all stemmed, none of those things, App 1 would have never happened. The successes it was that moment that Rose Latchley was her name. And Rose Latchley was the lady who called me on that day, and that, and ended up, what I thought was going to be a negative, ended up, God turned that around and made it a positive and put me in a place of authority. But because of your reputation, character, and all of that, that made that possible. And I don't know if I've ever told you that story.
No, you didn't.
Yeah.
That's new to me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. And so, no, thank you. What would you say if there was one piece of advice that you would give to young professionals today? What would it be?
Do your job and do it with trustworthy, and don't try to fool any landowners. Don't try to fool anybody, because you'll get caught.
Yeah.
And
so does that principle apply to every business? Is it the principles you're talking about?
Yes.
In doing your job, being trustworthy. What's some other advice you give?
Being loyal.
Yeah.
If you accept a paycheck from a man, you don't criticize him. You don't talk about him. You treat him with respect, because he's the man that's paying you, and he's paying you. And you got to be good.
Yeah.
You know, you got to be trustworthy.
I think a lot of people have lost that. As we finish, we got one last story, or I want to make sure we cover. And I want to ask you a couple questions as it relates to kind of life beyond work and really your legacy. And a lot of people don't think about their legacy until they get maybe till later on in life. But how do you define success now compared to maybe when you first started?
Success not is being worth a lot of money. That's not success. Success is that you happy with yourself, and you don't have trouble going to sleep at night. You don't have any problems. You don't worry about stuff, and you live a life that you think is right.
Yeah.
And you're just loyal, and you've been loyal to your spouse. You've been loyal to your children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren. My grandkids, I'm very blessed. I've got 18 grandchildren and 20 great-grands. And I'm going to, in May of this year, if the good Lord then lets me be around, I'm going to celebrate being a great-great-grandfather because Caleb's wife is expecting a baby.
That's awesome. That's so good.
That I'm looking forward to that.
Me too.
And then one of the things that bothers me the most about my grandchildren is, unfortunately, they live away.
Yeah.
You live in Birmingham.
Yeah.
Boo lives in Waco. Martha lives in Baton Rouge, and her children live in Houston, and wherever Bonda's working, and Colin lives in New Orleans. I just don't get to see them often.
Yeah.
It's an unfortunate thing.
Yeah.
But we talk, and when we do get together, which is usually at Christmas time, Martha bought me a Santa Claus suit, and I was Santa Claus for 2 years, and I enjoyed it.
That's right.
I gave each one of the grandchildren a cloisonne.
Now explain what that is.
What that is from Mardi Gras. It's a colored doubloon.
Yeah.
And I had them for each year.
Yeah.
And I gave them to the grandchildren that were there.
That's great.
As a memento and something to remember me by. Yeah. And I remember Harrison got the year that I was king.
Yes, he thought that was real special. So let me ask you this question as we get to finishing. What do you want your friends, your kids, your grandkids, and your great-grandkids, what do you want to be remembered as?
As I was a good grandfather. And I got the picture of the me as Santa Claus. That's hanging up on the wall. I used the same people you used for those pictures you sent me.
Yeah.
I guess just remember that they loved me.
Yeah. And
they thought I was funny.
When I think of you, I think of someone who's been extremely generous. Not just financially, all that, but I look at your life and some of your greatest achievements, and I think this is one of the highest compliments as a leader, as a good leader, as a good father, good grandfather, good husband, is some of your greatest successes are other people's successes.
Yeah, I guess.
No, I totally believe that with all my heart. So when you, about, I don't know, it's been what, 3 years ago? 3 years ago, 4 years, when you were diagnosed with multiple myeloma.
It's been 3 years this January.
Yeah.
I have bone marrow cancer. Bone marrow cancer doesn't kill you. It's other things that kill you, like pneumonia, flu.
Yeah.
Resistance gets lowered.
Yeah.
And I take 31 pills a day. Lydia comes, who's a nurse practitioner. She comes in, fills my racks.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Every 2 weeks. And I try to stay healthy. And I'm not right now. I fell on September the 18th, and I fell and I broke my pelvis in 2 places. So I spent 32 days in the hospital trying to learn how to walk.
Yeah.
You just can't walk.
Yeah.
When you break your pelvis, you have to lift your legs up by hand. You can't lift your legs. You can't do nothing.
But you, on a positive note, your recovery or what doctors were giving you is a very low percentage of people that didn't have major side effects, and the medication that you've been taking for the cancer has really slowed things down and actually helped you.
Well, what I do is I take chemo. I took chemo in pills. I was allergic to the pills. I was paralyzed from the waist down after 3 days taking the pill. They moved me to another pill and the same thing happened. Then I I went to taking a chemo shot in the stomach. And the latest was I was taking a chemo shot in the stomach that lasted for 6 minutes. It was like a syrup, and it was real slow in doing it. I've never been afraid of cancer. I'm not afraid of dying. I've never been, I don't even think about it. I thank God every night before I go to bed. I thank Him for the day that I had, and I thank Him for the night that I had. And I ask Him that I please, if it's His will, I'll please wake up in the morning.
Yeah. Wow.
And He's blessed me with 89 years.
Yeah.
And it's been quite a blessing.
Well, you blessed us. You blessed your entire family, and we love you, and I'm grateful for you.
I know that, and you have all kinds of people praying for me.
Yep.
And I appreciate that.
Yep. I remember years ago, it was like 1994. I don't know if you remember this, but you and I went to a Promise Keepers event together.
Yeah, I remember every one of them.
Yeah. And we went to that event, and that was a when I think of real special moments, I think about hunting with you. I think about going Promise Keepers event. I think about the time me and you got to go with the LSU team for your 75th birthday. And I got Les Miles, to...
He autographed me a hat.
Autographed you a hat.
I have it up here in the trophy case.
Yeah.
I have also the hat that you gave me from the Masters Golf Tournament.
Yeah, that Jack Nicklaus signed for you.
Yeah, and Jack Nicklaus signed something. I have it on my desk. I need to frame it.
Yeah, there you go. That's right.
Because it's unbelievable.
Well.
And I love to drop that off. Paul Zender always talks about big things in golf and all of that. And
yeah.
I tell him you went and played at the Masters, and he can't believe it.
Yeah.
And I tell him also that I got an autograph to Floyd from Jack Nicklaus.
Yeah.
You got to be kidding.
Yeah.
I said, yeah, Lee tended to all that.
Yeah.
Lee's done all kinds of stuff for me.
Yeah.
You helped me repair the house and things, and I appreciate all that.
Well,
you've done it.
I love you.
I love you too.
And I'm grateful for you. And you're the best dad I could have ever asked.
Thank you.
For. Thank you for never giving up on me.
Oh, no.
Thank you for always believing in me, even when it was tough. And thank you for being just the man that you are. So I want to honor you properly with that.
Oh,
So
I appreciate it. And I thank you for all what you've done for me.
Yeah.
And in such a kind way. And just anytime I'm in a bind on something, I've called you and you've come forth.
Yeah.
And I appreciate it.
That's what you call family. So.
Yeah.
Well, let's go get us some Judy Sin hamburgers. How
Oh,
about that?
Lord. I told you that there's a plaque up there where a guy ate 4 hamburgers, so he beat your record of 3.
Oh, man. Well, you know what? I did have at one time when I went with Paul Martin, we were playing softball, and I went one time and I had 5 cheeseburgers.
Oh, my God.
5. Couldn't do that again.
No.
Thanks for tuning in to the Kingdom Builder Podcast with Lee Domingue. We hope today's conversation has inspired you to live out your calling, impact others, and build God's kingdom in powerful ways. Stay connected with us for more stories of generosity and purpose, and visit kingdombuilders.us for more resources to help you grow as a kingdom builder. Until next time, keep living with purpose and advancing the kingdom.